This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts. Welcome to Body Count, a history podcast.
Hello, and welcome to Body Count, a podcast where we believe history doesn't repeat itself, it rhymes, and a proud member of the Big Heads Podcast Network. We're here to show you don't hate history, you just hate the way it was taught to you. Now, one rule when we choose a topic, someone, or as is usually the case, a lot of someone's died. We give you the series of events in a narrative fashion, and by the end, correlate said story with current events. Now, I'm not PBS, Ken Burns, or Dan Carlin. If you want a Hoover-esque Just the Facts Ma'am history podcast, we're not going to be for you, i.e. there will be analysis, opinions. This is not a lecture. My opinions are my own. Know that I hold my hosts or my co-hosts verbally hostage. Direct your hate where it belongs, at me. Please don't message anybody that's a guest or anybody that's a co-host, because they're going to direct you to me. So just go ahead and come at me, and I'm not going to care about it. That's the way it is. It said tragedy plus time equals comedy. No, we giggle at some occasionally very rough subject matter. We're not actively trying to offend anyone, but you have been warned. If you're okay with all of that ridiculously long string of bullshit, I'm your host, Jessica Manor, and I'm joined, as always, today by my co-host.
Hello! I was feeling so princessy with today's subject matter. I had to put my crown on, and so I feel like a princess today.
Well, you are a princess every day in my mind. You can't see it. You'll be able to see it on the Patreon eventually when I can get it downloaded, but I just hair flip. But we're also joined today by a guest. Now, guys, she can introduce herself the way that she wants to introduce herself, but she's definitely a PhD candidate in the mystical sciences. I think she's magic, but our guest today is
Stephanie Andrews. Hey guys, I'm so sorry. I am so glad to be here. Thank you, Jessica and Bethany. As you said, I am getting my PhD, my second PhD in the mystical sciences. However, student loans just are not coming through. I also don't have enough men yet to create a complete cult, around me as a personality. So that's also been an issue. But I am so glad to be here. I know nothing about history, but I am very grateful to learn.
Well, you're already worlds ahead of everybody else being a PhD in mystical sciences. Like, seriously, I mean, that is something that I didn't even actually know existed. And I thought I was on the outs when people were like, you can get a degree in dance? Yes. Apparently, you can also get a degree in mystical sciences, which is amazing.
Only from China, the Chinese Institute. I apologize. There's only really one place you can get it from, and they're notoriously difficult to work with.
What? Yeah, the Chinese?
I know. Privacy laws and all that.
Mental COVID, but you can definitely pick up a few classes on TikTok, but they're definitely going to track your data. So be aware of that. And it makes all the other PhDs that we've had on this show seem just absolutely foolish.
May I speak to that? Especially Dr. Doctor. Like, oh my God, who is he? He has a real actual PhD from a university, and he's published. I'm published too. Not in mystical sciences. It was a random study I was involved with during my undergrad. But hey, come on, bro, bring it on.
Hey,
he's not doing studies in reverse polygamy, okay? He's not doing that. You're doing that. That's fucking progress.
Thank you.
Okay, that is progress.
Smash the patriarchy, right? Like,
here, all I'm saying is my mom loves some Dr. Doctor, so you have a lot to live up to, PhD Stephanie.
I'm sorry.
Well, I've worked myself into polygamy.
Reverse polygamy takes Churchill in the news.
That's right.
Don't listen to this. Oh, so guys, this is really fun. We tried doing this before, but as always on the show,
We have a
it's
history.
take two time.
Yes.
It's take two time because we all got one, too drunk.
Yes.
And that might have all possibly been edited out, but I pulled a poor Jennifer and forgot that I was on this thing and
It was
actively peed and did the same thing as poor Jennifer without stopping the recording. So it was at that point that everybody was like, okay, we're out on trying to fix this. You did
We're
that
just
job.
take two.
Like, there is history mixed in with I don't know what else all that you are all talking about. So for everybody out there, this is a take two moment, as
Yes.
are most of our shows. Let's be
Yes.
honest.
Yes, absolutely.
So we did the smart thing and started drinking when we press record. So by the end of this, it will be a disaster, but we don't have to worry so much about editing it. So that's always good.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
Forward thinking.
Forward thinking. I mean, we're learning. We're learning as we go. Everybody knows. This
It's only
is just
taken us how many? It's only taken us how many episodes to figure it
I
out?
assume the listenership that we do get is just lovers of fly by the seat of your pants people. That's it. That's all we got. Like they're just like, we want to see this disaster unfold in real time.
They're like, we're here for it. We're here for it all.
That's why our premise is so great. Every week it's like watching the Challenger explode. I should have
That's
said
amazing.
that.
I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I'm trying to get
No.
I'm already trying to set it off. I'm already getting back. Really quickly, lot to get to today. First, housekeeping. We are a part of the Big Heads Podcast Network, which is a great collection of podcasts. We're super excited to be there. Please go check it out. Check them out on social media. I want to throw out a special, really quick thank you to Hotaskew. You guys sorted me into my Harry Potter house very, very accurately on your last episode, and I appreciate the way that it was done. So, that's something else that you can catch over there at Big Heads. If you love the show, please go give us those 5 stars on iTunes. I know a lot more of you listen than that have rated it. So please, please, please do that. We need it. It helps us out on the business end. If you write eat me or suck it in the deal, we don't care. We're going to think that's funny. It's nice if you say something nice, but do give us those 5 stars. Also, our Patreon, we're back up and running post hiatus. We're going to be doing bonus episodes, interviews, and some body counts that aren't body counts coming your way. But what we're doing right now is we're videoing ourselves during this ridiculous COVID outbreak, doing all this crap, and we're throwing those up there for free so that everybody can watch them. And Share Me's going to go up this week since we did not have an episode because we had too much fun last week. So Share Me is going to go up, and then we're going to actually put this up so you can watch the train wreck live. You can all share it. You can just watch Hurricane Katrina smash into the dike.
You can actually physically watch me cry about a pigeon. I didn't know that when we started the episode, and I was like, really, a pigeon? And when we got to the end, I was crying for the pigeon. So
I told you there would be pigeon-related tears in this one.
And you were wrong. You did not hear me wrong. So.
Forget the 300 men that died, but we did cry for the pigeon. So, que sera. You can go and watch us do Rasputin, which is our stupid conspiracy episode because Jessica had too much to drink that week while she was riding, and it got weird for a while.
I see a theme. Fantastic. Yeah, no, I thought it was fantastic.
Oh,
very good listening. Yes, no.
Oh, okay, cool.
Good. We were worried about it. So, what are we talking about this week? Does anybody know? Of course you know, because we've already done it. We're talking about PDG as Stephanie calls it, and I love it, and that's going to be what we call it the rest of the episode. Just FYI, no, we are talking about Peter the Great. Now, before we dive into this episode, I encourage everybody that's listening right now, if you have not done so, please go back and listen to the multi-part Russian Time of Troubles and then the multi-part early Romanov series. Now, Peter is going to be a standalone for us, guys, for sure. But if you want to know why we find, you find this deep dive into semi-early Russian history relevant and where it correlates to current events, you're going to need to go all the way back to that Time of Troubles episode and listen to that, because this is kind of a continuation of our early Romanovs, and we're cutting it off with Peter. But he's so large and he's so important. We had to take a lot of time, step away, do a lot of research, and come back.
Don't get me started on and I know that originally Romanov series was only supposed to be a few, and I turned it into a complete chaos of parts. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, Jessica. But it was so hard. It was super hard to follow, especially from somebody that didn't know anything about it. Especially when you asked me, all I could really think of was what we're about to talk about now, which is Peter the Great. That's the only name that rang a bell. And you're like, well, actually, there's a lot before Peter the Great. And you took me on a czar journey, and I still, to this day, I think I have nightmares of
A Zarni?
which czar is going to come to life. I don't know.
Zarni. Zarni. The more you know.
The more you know.
Let me rub my crown and see which czar.
Czar genie pops out.
What do you need? What do you need? What do you need?
Oh, amazing.
About the only wish they can grant is dead bodies. And that's it.
Your early demise. You're welcome.
Peasant death, noble death, doesn't matter, just death reigning everywhere. So what's also important is I gab a little bit about Peter when I talk about Sophia Alexievna in the last part of the Romanov series. So that's where we ended before we go into Peter. And one, I don't think she gets enough press. She's kind of a badass. Definitely a badass. I know Stephanie agrees with that.
I do.
She's been down the Sophia hole with me, guys, so it's exciting. And then I forced Bethany down it.
Yeah, and I've seen her notes, and it puts me to shame. And now I get what you talk about, Jessica, when you're like, I thought everybody's notes look like this. No, I've sent you pictures of my notes, Steph. I'll have to find my notebook. You will not be impressed. Now, I was really drunk writing these notes, okay? So
the sad thing is, though, looking at her notes, she's like, I don't know what any of this means. And I was like, I do. Watch. And I went through each step to she was like, oh my God.
Insanity.
Arrows.
Well, yeah, you have and different colored ink because they represent different importance and also anyway. Oh my goodness. Yeah. I'm so sorry, editors. I was so pumped. It was like I was like, you know how most people are watching 50 Shades of Grey, which I thought was terrible. I was like, yeah, writing notes. Woohoo.
You
out
on that.
I'm not gonna lie.
Totally nervous.
When I saw them color coded.
They are color coded, Jessica. Like, I can't do that.
They are 100% color coded. Yes, they are.
There was a slight snail trail, okay? That's all I'm saying. Like, I'm going, oh my God, I've had too much to drink already, and I can tell, like, woo, I gotta slow down on the silver bullet. Quit riding that ride. Quit riding that train. But I think that before we get into Peter, this is just my personal opinion. Sophia is going to be really, really important, essentially in the shaping of Peter, which we're going to be hitting hard and heavy today. So this is going to be the kind of the beginning of the other side of the story, so you can hear it from both different perspectives. Now, Again, not required listening, but if this is something that you're into, if Peter's something you're really into, I promise that you stand to gain from listening to the others. I cannot already be about to lose my voice. We just started this.
But I still can't get over when you call it a hard and heavy Peter. I just.
What other kind of Peter would you want in your life?
I
still can't get over.
Would you want a useless and a flaccid Peter?
my first thought was, Jessica, you know, when I started, I had that mini cam where I like had a beard. I was like, God, I wish I had like a big old dildo as a effect. That was my first thought. That was my first thought. Okay.
I wish it would just pop one right up when I said that. Just boop, boop, boop.
Peter. Peter.
Like Dennis Reynolds. I'm hard. I'm soft. I'm hard. Soft.
Nobody wants a soft Peter.
Nobody does. That is the truth.
Russia certainly didn't. They do not like a soft Peter. I can tell you that. They're not fans.
Sorry, Mom.
So, also, just like fair warning though, when you do listen to those episodes, when you go back, we were very traumatized by them, and we behaved quite a bit, a lot more than I've already misbehaved in this episode. I can assure you that. Like, it got pretty bad, so just like explicit ear warning, earmuffs the kids. Don't let anybody accidentally listen to you listening to this at work.
Yeah.
But, and it's especially prevalent in the Time of Trouble episodes, but you know, you spend a few weeks reading about mass murder by men wearing like broomsticks and dog heads pinned to them, and you be sober. You see if you're sober.
We did do one. We did do one of the episodes in that series sober. Do you remember? I remember we had to do one of those series.
The one where they were cutletting and eating children in the Ukraine. It was, that was a rough romp.
We've never done an episode sober since.
Oh God, I don't blame you.
No.
It was the worst one to do sober because it was the roughest episode by any means, and it was just horrific. And that's why we drink. And that's why we drink vodka when we do these. So, you know, I maintain that Russia and copious amounts of vodka kind of go together. They go hand in hand, hands across America, or Russia in this case. So, everybody, are we ready to do Peter the First Alexievich, a.k.a. Peter the Great, Emperor of Russia?
You would give him his whole name.
Well, I've got to introduce him like Daenerys.
Sorry.
I've got to introduce him like Daenerys Targaryen, or it's not fun for any of us. Like, you know, he's got to be like breaker of chains, mother of dragons, freer of slaves, whatever the fuck it is that George R.R. Martin makes me read in a paragraph every goddamn time somebody mentions her name. So, yeah. That's history, folks. Enjoy it for Peter Alexievich. Now,
I personally like the nicknames we gave him, but, you know, can we add that in his title? Is that something we can write in that book that everybody writes about? Just
I'll contact all the historians of the world and then the Moscow Kremlin museums and see if we can put PDTG.
Well, in like air quotes. Like, we're not trying to say this was his original name, but if we air quote it, would it like slide us on into history?
I feel like it might. I feel like it might.
I'm sorry, y'all. I teach online classes. I'm very, very about. It's called TPR, Total Physical Response.
Can you tell that I am too? Can you tell that I've done this as well? Because you and I have been like hands-on history this whole time.
And me, I'm just a dancer, so.
Oh, which is amazing. And that's what I wanted to be, Bethany. So I'm actually very jealous of you. Truly. We'll talk about it on another episode.
Yes.
Yeah, because I feel Stephanie being back for a lot of them in the future, FYI.
Samesies. So I just feel like we could slide into history DMs and make PTG a thing. Let's just slide into the history DMs and make it a thing.
PTG.
One day I'm going to write a book, and what I'm going to do is rip off historians that are far more talented and, well, let's face it, harder working than myself. But when I do, I'm going to do it in this funny and fun-filled way. So I will be sliding some PDTGs in there, just so we all know, because I'm about to do it on this podcast. Which, again, really quickly, nobody quote for your fucking papers. Really quickly, can I please say, and I've had a billion people ask me, don't cite me, because as soon as I'm done with this, I get rid of all my primary sources, and then y'all come asking me for my sources, and I'm like, fuck, I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know what I said. I can tell you the basis. I mean, maybe don't use, like secret history of the Mongols in your paper, because, I mean, it's a little biased, but just me. I don't know. Can't help you. Don't cite it. Don't cite it, because I don't cite it here. And I'm not ever going to do that, because that's a lot of work.
We used to. We did. We used to.
I mean, yeah, go feel free. Look at Pearl Harbor. Look at those. I used to do that, and I used to do it in show notes. But now that can just go F itself, because none of you care. So,
You're welcome,
while.
by the way. You're welcome, Mama.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right.
Been a while since we were last with the Romanovs, at least the early ones. We took a little Rasputin trip. So let's review where we left off in relation to Peter. Our listeners will remember at 10 years old, his very formative years, he came face to face with a Streltsy rebel mob in roughly the 1680s. I want to say 1682. Please don't fucking quote me on that, though. I could be wrong. Now, he watched his friends and family murdered horribly in front of him. Like, this was when they made the popcorn strings of people.
I don't need that is one that still haunts me in my dreams. So
it was like a Soylent Green Christmas. It's made of people.
Jessica,
and
details.
They burned the vodka-soaked corpses in Red Square. The usual, just like a basic bitch Friday night in Russia.
Oh my God, y'all, what should we do? Oh, I know. Let's drink vodka and murder people. That sounds good.
Let's chase people off the balcony.
We don't even have to murder them, though. Like, can we not just find some corpses and, like, just douse them in vodka and then set them on fire?
Oh my God, that sounds like we can make s'mores. S'mores.
While we're at it,
s'mores.
Let's burn down Moscow. Let's do it.
And also Moscow.
Oh my God, burn it all down. Yes, please. We'll even tweet about it. Hashtag.
Hashtag. What would that be? Corpse burn. Wait, no. You gotta think of a good hashtag. Okay, Jessica, you keep going on. We're gonna think of a good hashtag.
Think of our new Russian hashtag when we get into these. Oh, I love it so much. So he was super well adjusted, like the rest of the family ended up being by the time they took the throne. Believe it or not, he would turn the tragedy into triumph later in life. But no one was initially like super confident in this very spooked, twitchy kid. Okay. And actually, Stephanie pointed out something that I hadn't thought of, because the mad PTSD this kid probably had watching this, I didn't think about it manifesting as physical symptoms, because he suffered from this for the rest of his life. He would have these convulsions and these episodes that I always found that really interesting.
Yeah, no, I think Twitchy probably would best, what is the only word you could think of to describe what he's been through and why he is what he is? Just twitchy. I would be twitchy.
Right, exactly. Well, and it's a very common symptom of PTSD where you have somatic symptoms. You have symptoms that affect the body, like twitching, and even if you aren't even if you don't have PTSD, there's something called psychosomatic symptoms, where you have internalized so much trauma that your body begins acting out without your brain knowing. So I think either of these are really very plausible.
Like your conscious or your
You don't even,
like your realities start to, I don't know, I'm not the best at describing what I'm trying to describe, but like whatever's in the back part of your brain that you've suppressed is leaking through on your actual conscious mind.
That's exactly right. That was an excellent description. That whatever you're suppressing has leaked through into because your conscious mind is controlling your behavior, even if you don't realize it. So your deep, dark subconscious, we're even past the unconscious, is what is controlling it. And if you have a trauma such as this, I mean, it's more likely than not.
A lifetime of trauma.
I mean, right? But think about being born into this type of conflict. It just creates a whole host of symptoms that back in the day he's just a twitchy, sickly kid. Well, yeah, probably because his entire brain was turned to mush when he was, 3 years old. But whatevs.
See, I think it's interesting because, as we know, the Romanovs, this early branch, had like chronic scurvy, but none of these symptoms seemed to match the symptoms of the rest of the family. And he had a different mother. Alexei didn't really have symptoms of illness, so I know that a lot of people want to chalk it up to, it's just because these early Romanovs had a random, weird, freaking chronic genetic illness, but this doesn't seem to match the symptoms of that. This is not something that anybody else in the family suffered from. So that is why I find that interesting, because you never think about it early in history. I mean, a 10-year-old boy that had his existing father figure like ripped out of his arms, thrown off a balcony and onto some Hallbergs. So, right in front of him. So that's
who could have problems later in life from that? I
mean, seriously, Jessica, who hasn't?
Right, exactly. I mean, back in the Romanov days, you just did a shot and said, "Oh, that's the way it goes." Like that's what happened to all your father figures.
So what you're saying is
Peter should like this in front of you.
So what you're saying is Peter should have just been like, all right, you know what? I've been through all this stuff. This is just how it's supposed to be.
No.
What I think is interesting is it's going to speak to his sentimentality a little bit later in life, because he does tend to have a little more than what we see in, let's say, Mikhail, that like made it through the time of troubles. And that poor boy, like how messed up he was. And then Alexei has, no give at all whatsoever. He was just rough and tumble as the rest of them. And then we're not even going to go back to the Rurikids. We're sticking firmly in the Romanovs. I never want to talk about Yvonne ever again. If I never talk about Yvonne the Terrible, it won't be too soon. It's going to be like doing one of those episodes. You know what, Stephanie, we're going to have you on when we eventually do Vlad Tepish. So Vlad the Impaler.
Oh, I know who Vlad. I'm sorry. I'm a nerd, obviously.
Here's my mouth. Okay.
I have no idea. I don't even know. You guys are nerding out.
I know. I love Vlad because there's so many rumors around him. I'm so sorry, editors, but oh my gosh, there's so much to talk about with what is actual, fact, which is awful, and fiction, which is awful. But then also we have to think about the Duchess that then comes in. What was it? Elizabeth Bathory?
Yes.
Elizabeth? Yes. Anyway,
Bathory.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Stop jizzing, nerd jizzing all of each other. Seriously. Okay.
I don't even know how.
Polish mess.
Yes, we'll get into it.
we don't even know what her deal is. Okay, so I do, but who knows? Now,
can you hear me pouring this?
Yes.
Well, you can now. Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry.
Kind of into it. No, don't be sorry. It's not me doing a poor Jennifer. So that's all I care.
Hashtag not just doing poor Jennifer. That's a Russian hashtag.
Another Russian hashtag. Now, PTG, which we'll all remember. This is the last time I'm going to call him Peter the First Alexievich, like PDTG from now on. Was the youngest son of Alexei the First Romanov, and no one had any expectations of him inheriting the throne. Alexei died when Peter was 4, and the throne went to the heir apparent, which would have been Theodore the Third. Now, remember him. Brain power for days, sickly AF. Go back. I'm telling you guys, go back, catch the other 10 goddamn parts of the Time of Troubles in the Romanov series. Weird and wonderful. But Theodore the Third kicks the bucket about 6 years later, and that leaves us a very interesting crisis. Now, Alexei had 2 wives, if you guys will remember. Theodore, what's going to be an Yvonne, Sophia, all those kids are first wife's family. Now, Peter is from second wife's family. Now, the wives' family
that he loves the most.
Correct. That's the one that really changed Alexei. He started partying, plays, brought culture into Russia, really kind of started the beginning of opening Russia up, and we see that kind of continued later on of Peter. That was the Alexei that was with the second wife, not necessarily the first wife. So you can see how they're going to have 2 very different and conflicting viewpoints about how Russia should be ruled.
We got trouble in River City. I have been waiting to say it, and I didn't. We got trouble.
You start doing it. I swear to God, the number of Broadway numbers we've accidentally done in this show is ridiculous.
Come on, it's crazy.
525,600 minutes.
Oh, it's gonna get worse. It's all right. I almost started this by singing Good Morning Baltimore. I almost went the John Waters way. So, you know.
John Waters.
Right. Just
Perfection.
all over perfection. Real, but if you want to get into our brains, go watch a little John Waters and then come back to me and see how you feel about that.
Blue Velvet. Okay.
You know what? Throw some David Lynch on there and you've got the whole Jessica mix. Fire walk with me, bitches. So this audience isn't going to remember Twin Peaks. That's what I love. Now, Alexei, 2 wives. The wives' families were in constant, like Jerry Springer style power struggles with each other. I mean, coming out. It would be the most violent Jerry ever. Let me tell you, the audience wouldn't be Jerry. They would have to like arm themselves and get in the middle of this shit. It'd get nasty. It'd get nasty in a hurry. So the warriors, so they're going at each other, but there are still these massive amount of boyars and nobles that aren't part of either wife's family and actually hold far more positions in the court. So what they do is they get together and immediately vote to go with the 10-year-old Peter as Tsar, which is going to cause some trouble with wife number 2's family, or wife number 1's family, as we know, because this bypasses a middle brother, which is a 15-year-old Ivan, who, to be fair, was extremely disabled. And I mean, like, he got all the worst of the Romanov genes combined with the wife's genes. I mean, they all came together in just a latent recessive.
What about a genetic nightmare?
Absolutely.
He got the short end of the stick there. Let me tell you.
You got the short end of the stick, the short end of the bus, it all.
Short end of everything. Bless his heart.
He drew the short nobility straw. Okay. I mean, he was basically a late Habsburg. Bless his heart. So it was a good call to go with Peter. But the family of wife number one was not going to take this lying down. Why would they? Why would they? This is Russia. Of course, we can't just be cool. So they compromised, actually, and they let Yvonne and Peter be co-czars, because even they recognize, okay, maybe we can't just get away with shoving Ivan on the throne.
I mean, think about it. You've got a kid who's technically of age, but not really there. And you've got a kid that is there, but not of age. So if you put the two together, I guess that makes sense. I mean, I guess.
It's enough to keep peace until our girl Sophia thinks she can bring a court together. Let me put it that way. So, neither of these boys was actually, Yvonne has about 2 years to his age of majority as well. Neither one of them's to age of majority, so they're ruling as co-czars. But big sister Sophia is the one who rallies all these Streltsy guards and expels, aka like brutally murders and or Siberian exiles, those in power on stepmom's side. So Peter's mom's side. They were still the ruling contingent. She comes in, she's like, I don't think so. They're both my brothers. Sweeps the court of anybody that might stand in her way.
Wow.
Brutally.
Like a badass.
Brutal.
She's a bad bitch. I encourage everybody to go back. Listen, she's a bad bitch. I love her. I'm not saying she's a good person, but she is a bad bitch.
But she's a bad bitch.
We didn't say we agree with her actions. We're just stating the actual facts here. She was kind of a badass.
Well, can we just pause for one moment to think that if she was a man, I hate that whole, if she was a man. Okay. But if she was a man, she would have taken over the throne. She would have gotten, she's a bad bitch. That's it.
I think everybody would be applauding her for it and saying, that was just the time.
Oh my gosh, you're such a great conqueror. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh my God, the new Genghis Khan. Jesus Christ, love you so much, new Caesar. But because she's a woman, it's like, she was just so awful.
Look at that awful woman. Again, not saying that she was good at all. Right. But she was clever.
Hold on, though.
But nobody was.
But think about all the other people that did the exact same thing she did.
Right.
She did the exact same, this is happening? I don't think so. I'm going to do the necessary steps like a true leader, a true emperor, whatever you want to call it. And she made her stake. I'm sorry, but I would have kneeled at the side of it. I really would. I would have been like,
I am a Sophia stan. I'm right there with you. 100%. I'm sorry, Jess.
We all are. Oh, no. Don't apologize. We're talking about the history this time, so we're doing very good. But, any opposition throws herself in there as regent. So really, neither boy is doing a whole lot of ruling. There are no king babies in Russia, which go to our Instagram. You could see they had a little double throne made up for both of the boys. It's there. The Moscow Kremlin museums were kind enough to let us post it. And you can see the little peep down thing that comes down in the back so that Sophia and advisors could whisper to them the things they were supposed to say to ambassadors and courtiers. It's a really cool picture. Go look at it. Now,
smart, but insane.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So this means she's ruling in the brother's stead. So there is, this is going to be the way of it for some time in both of the boys' life, especially as Peter's 10. So he kind of moves out of the city because Sophia wants Peter and his family, what's left of it anyway, as far from the throne as she can get anybody, because he's the threat. If there's no Peter, she can always be the regent through Yvonne, because he's never going to be able to rule on his own, obviously.
So is she wanting to, get rid of Peter? chop head Peter, or like, hey Peter, just move far enough away to where
it's gonna kind of depend on what their little attitude is as we go forward in this. Like, are you gonna be a threat? Are you gonna stand in my way? Are you not? Is the court gonna turn against me? Either way, she's got a card up there in Peter. So
she's smart. I give her that.
Oh, she was smart. But because Peter is so far away from the court, he doesn't grow up in a classic, what is the courtier style right now? What a normal czar's upbringing would actually be. It's going to be very, very far from traditional.
Like with servants and like people doing everything for him. And
he's doing it Simba style, okay? Like, he's just going to have to wait. He's gone off. He's living the Simba life, you know. He's watched that go down. A herd of stampeding wildebeest took out the rest of his family.
I feel like that's what actually happened, but no one is brave enough to mention that, so thank you for mentioning it.
I tried.
For being brave.
For being brave. So, essentially, Peter lives with his ma, the Dowager Tsaritsa Natalia, and they're sent to live on the Preobrazhenskoye estate outside of Moscow. And guys, you would be so proud of me if you saw that Russian word.
I do see that. I do see that. Preobrazhenskoye.
It's a fun one.
Preobrazhenskoye. There you go. I got it. Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Got it. Got it Midwest style, at least. Although I hear that Russian radio is now being transmitted in the Midwest, actually, at least out of Kansas City, Missouri. Have you guys heard of that?
Years.
Okay, we're not gonna get into that whole thing, but start looking into Russian radio transmitting on American airwaves. It's a fun hole to go down. So what's a young czar to do? So he rounds up a bunch of folks, which are mostly boys his own age, and they form this toy regiment, and they play war games. You know, I guess this is what most boys do.
No.
Imaginary style, just most of them don't have Peter's money to do it with. So these games
Peter's
are elaborate.
Or his traumatic experiences. Because I've got a boy. I got a boy. He does not play war games. Okay, so I mean,
definitely not like this. Because they're elaborate. They're elaborate. He's obsessed with war. Peter's obsessed with war and armies and navies. So he was like Paul Revere and that shit. He was gonna come by land and sea, yo. He had both lanterns. He was playing it. He was playing it hard. He was
a hard Peter.
a hard Peter.
Very hard Peter. Yes.
Hashtag always hard Peter. There you
always go. Hard PDTG. So he takes like all of these people out, all these toy regiments to Lake Pleshevo, where they didn't just learn to sail, they learned to build the boats and then to fight each other on the boats. You know, just boys being boys, you know, normal. I don't know anything about 10-year-old boys, but Bethany's just educated me. But then again, I assume this would all kind of be their dream, to have the money to build like all these mini boats themselves and then sink them against each other.
No, because my boy is turning 9 in a few minutes, so he's practically 10. Okay, like sob for a second, but I'm just saying, he and I have already discussed if he, you know, he always says when he wins the lottery, which he means like us, if we won the lottery, he already knows what he would want with his money and his winnings. And I can guarantee you it's not to spend it on toy soldiers.
If I think that's actually a boat
I think it's a testament, though, to Bethany, to her as a parent. Trauma, it is. Trauma plus money equals weird, small army. I mean, not always, but it does manifest in different ways. So that's a testament to you as a mother.
Thank you. I tried.
I agree with what
you
Stephanie
succeeded.
said, though. Like, you can. Good job. But that is kind of the thing that I see here with Peter. It's like he was going to make sure that none of that shit ever happened to him. You're not going to get the drop on Peter.
Mm-hmm.
He's already there before you. So that's why I didn't even have to prompt Stephanie to make my point. I'm so excited right now in podcast world. This is like, woo! Psychology! Because she does real shit, guys. The mystic science thing was just a joke, obviously. You can tell what she does.
I'm trying to be so quiet.
That's why we have her out. So, you know. And boys love to follow Peter, but not just boys. I mean, like grown-ass men love to follow Peter too. Now, what is that? For the time, he's a little bit of something of a freak. Now, he made an impression because he's kind of this stunning sort of physical specimen. He is 6'7", which meant that he is at least 1.5 meters taller than the majority of people around him as a fucking teenager.
He's giant. I'm sorry. I'm 5'3". Anybody above me is like, my husband's 6 foot. You go any taller than that? And I'm like,
right? Let me get out my climbing chains and my little feet spikes and be one of those tree cutters and go up it, you know.
Step ladders.
You gotta do what you gotta do after that. I mean, my God. So you can literally see this guy everywhere in a crowd. And you know, it's like following an obelisk almost. Like the huddled masses can literally just crowd underneath him as if he's the Statue of Liberty, if you will. And he also, like myself, apparently suffered from ADHD. He could not sit still for half a second. Like, it literally killed him. He always had to be doing something, real man of action type, if you will. And I think that also goes back to that same kind of psychological, I can't be sitting still, you can't catch me off guard, like,
I feel like it comes with just
popcorn strings out of my family again, and I'm not for that. So
I honestly feel like it also comes with the territory of being that tall. Like, if you're 6'7", I feel like that is your destiny to just be like that. Like, I'm sorry, but if I had that power, I would take it. I'm just saying.
You know, you always have to be blurry in photographs, and you always have to be on the move, like Bigfoot.
Also true. James is 6'6", and so it's either him and Delia on his shoulders, or just like me and him where he's being weird. No, it's true. It's true.
Squat down.
Squat down.
So.
What now?
I can't wait to make that joke to James, though. I'm sorry, James, you're slightly blurry in this photograph, but it is difficult.
Is it because you're the size of Bigfoot? Yes.
The amazing answer that he's going to give me in response to that is just like, I can think of so many, and they're going to be far more offensive and way wittier than what I could ever throw, and that is what I love about James. So it's going to be wittier. Yes. So it's going to be more clever than mine. He's like Lucille. Mine was better.
Oh, James is your Lucille. Oh my gosh, he's gonna love that so much. And I agree.
I honestly think
much about tobacco, not your chair. That's gonna be him. It's gonna be him. Mine was better.
Hold on, I'm sorry. Sorry, y'all. I have hair.
I think this was actually, if I remember correctly, I know that we're recording, and this is part 2. However, or take 2. I think I remember.
Not part 2.
Sorry, take 2. I do remember and recall looking up Peter because you call him 6'7", and honestly, like I said, whenever you think of somebody that's that tall, you think of and you called him, like, obviously you're talking about people kind of worshipped him and followed him and everything. I remember I had to look him up, and I will never get that picture out of my mind of what Peter, PTG, okay, looks like. Because it literally looks like his curls are just like there.
Like David's girl.
Well, his curls are 1.5 feet of the height. Like,
Maybe
the
he's
history books don't report that. That's a little known fact. So he was literally like maybe 5'2", maybe. Had a lot of hair.
Maybe 5'2".
Maybe.
Russell Brand can't get that kind of lift. Okay.
I think you broke her.
She almost did break me. Okay. Oh, so yes, I'm sorry, Bethany, go ahead.
No, anyway, he's 6'7", he's handsome, he's gorgeous. I get it. I was just trying to paint a picture, and I remember it now, and I get it. He's there. I totally see him in a crowd. You can't miss him. And he is
almost born to be Czar-like, if one will.
And he has ADHD. You put those combos together, and there you go. You got a Czar.
Yeah, imagine what I could do with height and my ADHD. I'm 5 foot nothing, literally, maybe 5'1". I'm a tiny person, but imagine what I could have done in the paint. No, I'm just kidding. Unlike his brothers, Peter, PDTG, didn't get expert tutors because he's where he is, and nobody, quite frankly, wanted to think about the boy. So he didn't even finish his education, which is more than apparent, and you can kind of see for yourself if you read his numerous letters riddled with, spelling errors, and this is a lifelong thing as an example. But it does not mean that Peter was stupid by any means or stretch of the imagination. He just didn't write Greek or Latin or really give a shit if he spelled something correctly. Because he's already like, I'm Czar. I don't have to spell it correctly. I just gotta sign that shit. Fuck off. Like,
when you said that, Jessica, when you said that, like, he didn't finish his education, I was like, well, why was he there in the first? I kind of shrugged. I was kind of like, well, why was he there anyway? Like, obviously, he gets it. Even if he doesn't have to write it down, he could find somebody else. Mm-hmm. He could, or I mean, obviously, he can't trust everybody, but I mean, he wrote it down, even though there's spelling errors. He knew what to do.
That's what courtiers are for. He doesn't have to write it perfect, okay? He doesn't have to cite his sources. He's the fucking czar. Literally, he can say something. He doesn't need a reason. He can make shit up, okay? Yeah. Like, he's the czar. That's fun. That's how I like to live my life. I don't need a reason. I'll make one up.
Right. 100%. I'm on what is it? A Zarni? I'm on a Zarni. Like, don't question me. I'm on my journey, but with Czar-like powers.
So, I'm sorry, mere mortal. The powers of time don't matter to me.
So sorry.
Sorry, like a hippie.
I'm sorry. I am sorry.
Like a hippie, like a hippie, but a czar. So a Zarpy?
A Zarpy.
I don't know.
Damn Zarpies just on Hate Ashbury. Ruining shit.
How dare they?
All the Zarby pieces of, out there in their hacky sack circles. Zarby.
Hating the world and just tossing it back.
It's like downtime on the first season of True Detective with Matthew McConaughey and fucking Woody Harrelson. That's what it's like. Like, just so much hippie-ishness going on.
So much hippie-ishness.
That's what it is.
Excellent recommendation. Or, yes.
You know.
Is it a recommendation if you don't recommend it, but you just speak of it? No, it's not a commendation. It's just a dation.
I was just trying to subtly put the idea into people's head to maybe go see it. Go watch it if you haven't.
To understand.
Now, I don't care about the rest of the seasons, but maybe do that one.
It's one of your sources. It's one of your sources.
That's okay, because it's fantastic.
Oh, God.
Sources, but also don't quote me.
Please don't.
So, now, as we get into this, Peter's kind of, like we said, he's not stupid. He's more the sort of a man of the people kind of guy. More of a man of the people kind of guy. So, sure, his Latin left everything to be desired, but he knew everything there was to know about craftsmanship, right? So Peter, he masters smithing, carpentry, wood turning, shoemaking. He's Jesus and Daniel Day-Lewis put into one human being. He is everything that you would want to follow, I guess. Really, I mean,
the best burrito.
He can do Passion, and he could do Last of the Mohicans. Okay, like,
I love it. Perfect.
He's one. He is one. So
he is one.
It's an odd mix, again, for a czar. It's something the country had yet to see. Now, he did study. He did. But just not the traditional czarist kind of stuff. It was more like military science, fortification, and shipbuilding. Now, his governmental policy might suffer, but like we said earlier, you can find a million boyars and nobles who were all about the pen versus the sword. Well, the quill in this case, I guess, pushing it, whatever.
Actually,
I would argue that, I sound like Twitter. I would argue that a czar's greatest task, in fact, since before and after the time of troubles, ended up being military leadership. That's ultimately what makes you the czar, right? I mean, it's what keeps you, it keeps the crown on your head.
It's the protection. You got military, the crown, boom, bang, bang. It's like peanut butter and jelly.
It's like Eowyn in Lord of the Rings. If you want him, come and claim him, kind of thing, Like, if you want it, come and claim it, kind of sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I would argue for the time period. Now, for the time period, Peter's on the right track for Russia. For the time. And then, as is now, weak rulers tend not to make it too terribly long in the old Muscovite duchy. He learned languages, too, while he was in the foreign quarter. Linguistically, he wasn't really a slouch. So that takes us to the foreign quarter. Now, remember, really quickly, Daddy Alexei was all fighting all his wars, and he left like this head patriarch of the church, Dick, in charge. Now, he was all about no foreigners. Alexei was like, wait a minute, though. I got a war, and I kind of dig their money and their military tactics. I'm kind of on board with these guys.
Stuff like, shouldn't I like?
Ooh, you put me in a position. Yeah. So then old patriarch guy was like, fine, whatever, stay, but only in this one area. So that's okay. And most people probably don't. And if you haven't listened to the early Russian state series, you don't necessarily recall. So let's do this in simplest terms. So the foreign quarter was an area of Moscow set aside specifically for foreigners, established in 1652 when Peter's dad, Tsar Alexei, said, hey, all you non-Orthodox Christians, you can totes stay here, but you have to stay in your own little, settlement outside the
like
city,
your faction,
if you will.
Stay in your faction.
Stay in your ghetto, basically. It has a precedent for later in history. So
Segregation.
up top the new foreign quarter, just outside the walls on the Yausa River. And it was like this cool, weird little place. It was self-governed, housed people of all nationalities. So a majority were military men, doctors, and craftsmen that were seeking broader opportunities in far-flung but largely untapped Russia. Remember, Russia's still, pretty out there at this time. I mean, even their czars weren't marrying European princesses because Russia is considered still very much a backwater. So, like, France and Spain aren't shipping their grade A. Yeah, they're not shipping their grade A, like, pieces of ass, off to bring home an alliance, basically with ice and snow, because that does them no good. But
it's like your seventh daughter you marry off. Kind of like
not even sending them there. They're sending them to go be a duchess in a non-existent German kingdom. So it's this great big opportunity for economic development, and so thus we have the foreign quarter. Now, that is what Peter is ultimately curious about. So the foreign quarter was only a few miles from Preobrazhenskoye, and Peter finally decided to see like what all the fuss was about, right? And he wasn't disappointed as far as czars go, especially young ones. Remember, Russia's a bit more austere at the time.
I know that was late.
You're fine. You're fine.
You're fine. Listeners are going to remember, like, princesses weren't even allowed mirrors because some monks said that they were full of, like, Eastern Orthodox Christian demons. That's the kind of austere that Russia is dealing with. But Peter is delighted with the foreign quarter because he's all about that European life and was soon
Let's roll. Let's go to the foreign quarter. Let's have some fun. Party in the foreign. That sounds like it's going to be a straight up party.
No, truly.
The party going on outside my door as well, apparently. A dog party.
Josie and Lola are here for it. Your dogs are here. They're ready to roll in the foreign quarter. Let's rock.
They're here. They're rolling like European style. Now, it was here that he met a Swiss soldier by the name of Franz Lefort, which was a very experienced military officer, handsome dude, all around society, mister, if you will. Now, the guy was connected, and he was more than happy to make Peter feel at home in the old foreign quarter. So Lefort was soon in Peter's inner circle, as well as Lefort's number one man, Alexander Menshikov. Now, these two would remain among Peter's closest friends, advisors, policymakers, which is interesting because at least one of them is very much of the continent and European. Now, and why wouldn't they be? The foreign quarter is almost every night like dancing, drinking, whoring, smoking. Yes. So welcome to like
we're doing a play-by-play.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It was like his college year. Really
amazing. That was really good.
It's like he spent a year abroad while only being a few miles from home because he also learned to speak fluent German and Dutch. So again, the guy linguistically is kind of a wonder. He does, by the end, speak so many languages, it's kind of stupid. So Lefort also introduces Peter to his very first mistress, Anna Mons. Now, she is the daughter of a Dutch wine merchant.
I'm Dutch. I like wine. It could have been me. Here we go. I'm ready. This might be my heritage.
That's why your crown's on. That's why your crown's on. But then Mommy finds out about all the fun PDG has been having. And like forcing some wall-to-wall carpet at him is kind of how she thinks she's gonna calm this boy King down, right? But it's what you did. You just got married. You were having a little too much fun. It was time to get married, sonny boy.
Settle down. Calm down.
You know,
Calm down.
Calm down.
because that seed is meant for future kings, not for funsies. So his chosen bride ends up being Yevdokia Lupakina. Now, she's from a good family. Chosen less for her looks, though, than her childbearing hips. Okay, she looked like she was a birther, and Mommy was all over that. Also, her
what you're
piety.
saying is she's a butterface. In modern times, she's a butterface.
That's how I would describe it.
Good, but her face.
Yeah,
Yes.
basically,
No one's
she looks
disagreeing.
like-
Poor
no.
girl. Poor.
The point is, she looks like she can turn out some babies, and she ends up being able to. And her piety, she's very pious, which again is what every young man in his teens is looking for, a real Jesus freak. So you know that I've heard from young gentlemen is rule number one.
Okay.
Number one.
Okay.
Number one.
Right? Number one. So Sophia is still holed up in Moscow as regent, and she's going to have to be ousted sooner or later.
Mhm.
So she manages, before even Peter gets married, to marry off the disabled Khazar, Ivan, in an attempt for him to produce an heir. Because in Sophia's mind, that if Ivan has a baby and it's a male, until that child is of an age of majority, she
Good.
also gets to rule as regent. So she's got pretty much the next 17 years on lockdown as being queen. And
I know.
so
Good plan.
it was
Smart.
a good plan. And it tips Peter, sooner or later, Sophia's probably going to be gunning for him. So he went ahead and married, did his duty, produces an heir. Now, Peter, again, was far from crazy about his new wife. So once she was knocked up, Peter is right back to Lake Plasievo playing war with his friends. This is one thing, typical. This is when things kind of start to unravel in Moscow. Sophia is refusing to give up her power as regent, and civil unrest is like, sorry, I almost said Death Clock, wrong show. It's more like, what am I thinking? Turned up to an 11. What am I thinking? It's a mockumentary.
11.
Yes, Spinal Tap. It's
Spinal
Tap.
Tap.
11.
Turn up to 11. I couldn't even.
No, thank you, Bethany. Without you, I wouldn't have gotten there. No, thank you.
I wouldn't have either, because I went Metalocalypse and had Death Glock in my head. I don't know. Random cartoon.
My crown. That's right.
That's what it is. That's what it is. So as we know from previous fun in Russia, that means heads are about to roll, and everybody's going to be vodka drunk. Corpses are going to be violated. So what the half sister to do?
I'm glad we're talking about rolling heads, and I'm a couple beers in, so thank you.
Well, we're right back in Russia. I promise we were never going to leave it.
I know that. It's hard to embrace what you've been through like a 10-part series of just death, and to come back to it. It's hard. It is.
It's not going to get better.
I know.
So she sends her agents to attempt to kind of goad the Streltsy into solving yet another problem for her. Sophia just wants them to drop by, say hey to Peter and the family, murder the shit out of them. We all know the song and dance,
etc., etc. Yeah.
It's a normal Romanov family reunion, really. But Peter is not a 10-year-old kid anymore. He's a grown-ass man, and the kind that other men tend to want to follow, which is going to be problematic for Sophia. Now, life hadn't exactly been awesome under Sophia and her mother's people, like her family and boyars and nobles and military alike were kind of starting to get interested in letting this charismatic young Khazar take a turn at the throne. And he is the rightful heir.
Why not?
After all. Why not? Exactly. So some loyal Streltsy hi-ho silver it to warn Peter, say, hey, brah, your sister's sending these dudes to like kill you and all of your remaining family and friends, just a little FYI. Bro code, exactly.
Bro code kicked in, yeah.
Bro code it.
Sacred.
It is. So Peter bolts for the sanctuary, at the monastery of Trinity San Sergius. What a fucking mouthful. And calls his friends and family and all loyal troops, boyars, and nobles to him. And he just kind of holds up, waits it out, Tywin Lannister style, for his bannermen to show up at Casterly Rock or wherever it is that he decides to throw the old Lannister banner down. He's just waiting because he doesn't have to do anything else. Quite frankly.
Why not? He's just literally sitting there like, yeah, no, I get it. I would do it too.
He's hand to the king in that shit, okay? Let's put it in some Game of Thrones style terms. And everyone's kind of tired of Sophia's rule and answers the call. So the rebels are crushed, Sophia's banished to a monastery, and Peter takes power officially. Now, for those that do remember our last episodes, that's kind of where we left off in our last early Romanov series. Thank you for your patience. We have now recapped Peter's early years from that last episode, and that is where we are going to cut it off today.
Okay. I know we're cutting it off, and maybe this question was answered in part take 1. But I do, and maybe this will be answered in part 2. But you said, and I quote, everyone was tired of Sophia's rule. And I am curious as to what caused a rebellion, because it sounded like Sophia kind of had.
I'm gonna need to direct you all the way back to that last episode in the early Romanov series, because it is literally an episode's worth of an answer to that question.
We're coming full circle, because I don't know what she did. I just didn't know this. Is this coming around to what she did?
The end of the circle?
The end of the circle. So if we go back, the early Romanovs, I cover everything up to this point, or past this point, actually, with Sophia. And you see it from Sophia's side, if you will, and all of what were Sophia's policies. Whereas this time, we're coming back in, circling back around, and coming just from Peter's point of view. Because they're going to flash hard a little later on.
Okay, I guess I felt like where we're left off and then where we're at now, I guess I just figured, to me in my head, I was thinking we're at that point where maybe Sophia's had I don't know if redemption really from what she did.
Redemptive moment, yeah. She's like, oh.
But I do remember what she did, but now it's all okay. Yep, I get it. It's all circled back.
This is the
why everybody's like, I'm done.
I'm done, but we've also not heard the last of Big Sister yet. Either.
I didn't think so. I didn't think we would. I'm just saying, I just was trying to piece together the timeline, I guess. And now I understand.
Right. But in the previous episode, we didn't really talk about Peter and what was going on with him and what he was doing. So in the meantime, this has been Peter's side of the story. And we still have a ways to go before Sophia's out of this. And next week, we're going to get into the building of things. And then in part 3 and maybe part 4, I'm hoping not, but God help me, I did too much research, you guys, as always happens. We're going to actually get into the empire building. We're still just a backwater, but Russia does not stay a backwater with Peter the Great. So
I didn't know that.
Real quick. Oh, I'm so sorry. So I know this is so lame, but the shout out I gave last time when I was totally wasted for the DV hotline, like it's just so important.
I want it again. It is
okay,
important.
do we want to do it again? Okay, hold on.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, we are going to connect to you with another part. But we do want to do something that means something, especially to our guests and to me and to Jessica, of course. So we do have a shout out, and especially in this time of need, in this whole coronavirus. I know we're starting to open back up. Well, some places I guess are. I don't know. Who the heck knows? But in any case, it's going to continue. It has been going on for a while. So
it's
absolutely
still a long journey back to normal.
Yes.
Thank you both. So right now, we know there's a nationwide epidemic right now of domestic violence. It happened, it was going on before the virus, but now it is exacerbated. Right now, abusers will abuse more in high stress situations. And we have to realize that people, women, men are stuck at home with their abusers in situations that they cannot control. So please get the word out, thehotline.com, or call 1-800-799-7233. This is the National Domestic Violence Hotline. It's so important that we pay attention to these behaviors right now, not just with domestic violence, but also with child abuse. Because children who have, school is their only safe place. This is a reality for millions of children around this country. So please check in with your neighbor, check in with the kids down the street. Just check in. And if you do suspect something, report it. Trust me, you won't get in trouble. It is all about being good neighbors, especially in this time of crisis. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
It's so true. And even when this lockdown ends, we all know we're not going back to school. That's done for this year. So those same kids, this isn't going to end as the country opens up. Maybe the stress levels may go down, but once an abuser, always an abuser. That's going to continue. So please do.
Yeah, and the jobs aren't opening back up either. There's not we're in a freeze hire. So it even those that have the stress is what it is. It's not just women or, there's men, children, there's elderly even. So any kind of domestic
is an excellent one too.
Absolutely. So if you know that anybody, and we hardly ever, we don't do this very often, but we are very, very, very passionate as women and as mothers, as wives, as grandmothers, and future come and everything. We're here for it, and we're here for you. So I love that you plugged that, and that's awesome, Stephanie.
Oh, thank you
too. And reach out to all of us, and we're going to tell you where you can reach out to all of us on social media. First things first, though, I'm going to go ahead and plug where you can follow the show. And all of us, you can reach us there. So you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at bodycountpod.com. You can also go to bodycounthistorypod or bodycountpod.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at bodycountpod. Now, the website is bodycounthistorypod.com. You can reach us there by email. You can also reach me personally at jessica.manor at bodycountpod.com. You can reach us through our network website. You can buy our merchandise there. You can do everything there. Jump on to bigheadsmedia.com. Click on the history tab. We're going to be the very first thing that you see. If everybody will plug, starting with Stephanie, so that people have a place maybe to reach out to you on social media.
Of course, 100%. Thank you, Jessica. So Steph, STEPH _Andrews, AU at, I don't know, Gmail maybe?
Or Twitter? Well, Twitter.
That's my Twitter, right? Does it have
Yeah,
that?
no,
Oh,
that's
God,
your
can
Twitter.
they edit this? Okay. STEPH _Andrews, ANDREWSAU at Twitter.
Twitter. Is that your Instagram too?
My Instagram is not that. Hold on.
It's okay.
Not that. I know it's not that, but I'm
It's not. Yeah, it's not that. I'm so bad at this. Okay, y'all, hold on. Okay.
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, Steph Andrews AU.
I'm pretty sure you're the same as where you are on Twitter.
I think you're absolutely right. Okay, so
either way, we'll post it too. We'll post your link too. Yeah, absolutely.
please post my links. Please, with Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, I am open for your DMs regarding domestic violence and also child abuse.
Not history.
Here. Yeah.
Not history. That's Jessica's domain.
History is Jessica. If you need help, right, like in these other areas, history, go to Jessica, but otherwise, and please know that everything you send is confidential, and I'm here as a resource. So yes, I'm so sorry that I don't know my handles.
No,
I'm very lost.
And we're going to post it. What's important is people know they can go to you to direct
100%
where they need to go.
100%.
And again, guys, if you can't remember or if you don't miss that, you're normally messaging us. Bethany and I will also get you to Stephanie and where you need to go. So Bethany, where do people follow you?
You can find me on Instagram at BethanyRN24. And then on Twitter, Bethany Skelton 5. That's the number 5. And I do have a Facebook, but it's really mainly for my personal. Hey, if we want to get personal, I'll let you know. I'll DM you my Facebook. But other than that, those are the most important. I do have Snapchat and TikTok and all that. But regardless, those are the main things, especially for this podcast. And Jessica, of course, you've already plugged our podcast. So where can people find you? So they can
You can only find me at 2 places, and you can send your hate there. But I am going to remind you also, you can reach me at Jessica Manor at bodycountpod.com. I will maybe take it there. You can also find me at Jessica B. Manor on both Instagram and Twitter. I'm not saying I won't take it if you make a good historical point. I will acknowledge you. I'll even do corrections, but so rarely do any of you that want to DM me do so.
Like I said, good luck. Seriously.
I ignore you. Yeah, good luck. Here's what it is. But we love to hear from you guys, especially when you throw out topics that you want to hear about. So we have a lot of fun with that. Those I always do answer. Those I really have a good time with. You guys are, I lost you here, but you guys are kind of genius when it comes to that. So I think that is going to do everything for us this week. We will be back at you. Can't hear me?
No. What?
What's in here, bud? Hold on.
We can hear you just a little bit.
I'm like, whoa, where'd you go? Aliens do exist, Justin.
Thank God it blinks because I can find it. Okay.
Okay, we're good.
We're gonna do a second run at that. We will be back at you guys next week with the second part of Peter. Hopefully Stephanie's not tired of us and will join us once again to be extra weird because we're all in this lockdown BS. So we love you guys. We had a great time, and everybody go forth and do nothing. Happy pandemic. We We love you all. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.